Hello everyone. Kristen Willard here, registered dietitian. I thought I'd come on here live today. I did a post up on Instagram, and you know what? Maybe I'll put it into the feed here later. And I was just talking about how to do like a basic formula when you do meal prep. So a really good rule of thumb to go by is 1 pound of protein and 1.5 cups of vegetables. And it depends on what kind of carb you're choosing, but in this particular picture, I chose to do rice. And using this formula usually helps you produce about 4 different portions. So you can have 4 portions for the week. So if you have family, obviously you're going to be using some of that for family. You're not going to be eating all that. But it's just a basic rule of thumb to go by. And I noticed in my comments that someone said, "Is that rice?" And I thought I should talk about it because I know rice is really looked upon by some people that it's a no-no after surgery. And the question is, can I have rice? And the answer is it does depend. So if you are having it, sometimes people when they have rice or when they have pasta or when they have bread, it can be really painful and it just doesn't feel good going down. If that's the case, then definitely none of those food items for your diet, because it's more for comfort reasons than anything. Now, nutritionally, they aren't necessarily the most nutrient dense food to have on your plate. However, I do feel that they can be a part of your diet after surgery. It's just more about having those smaller portions. Ideally, you're going to be looking for more of the whole grain. So in my picture, I chose long grain brown rice instead of white rice. And the reason for that is because you're going to have more fiber. You're going to be having more B vitamins in that whole grain rice. And I just want to ask you a question. Are you able to eat more white rice than brown rice? Because I have found personally that I find that the products that are more processed, that they're easier to eat. You don't need to swallow as much, or you don't need to chew as much. You can just swallow them down. It also just kind of seems to hit these sensors in your brain of eating more. So I really want to focus on the quality of the carb and not say no carbs whatsoever. So I do believe that rice, if it's in that smaller portion, and ideally if it's in a long grain brown rice, can fit into the diet as long as you're not having pain. Same thing with pasta. Ideally you want to choose more of a whole grain pasta opposed to just a regular white pasta. Same thing with bread. You want to choose more of those whole grains. Now the question is, okay, so what's a portion size? If you are following that bariatric plate method model, ideally it's around 1/4 cup. So it's not going to be a significant amount of pasta, but can you have pasta? Yes. Can you have rice? Yes. As long as you're not having any pain, and it can fit in part of the diet. So I thought we would look at a couple different labels to compare different options. So let me take this off and we will look. So I have here, I brought out some different ones. I wanted to use the rice, but unfortunately I was all out of rice. So I have different options here. So if pasta is something, like I said before, if it's something that is going to give you any pain, then it's definitely not for you. However, if you want to have pasta because it can be for different sauces or different meals, you can include it in roughly around 1/4 cup. So, if we're going on what's the healthiest option, ideally when you look at the nutrition label, I try to look for the one that's going to have the most amount of fiber and the most amount of protein. So all of these, this is around... So for a 2.5 ounce, for a 3 ounce portion, it's around 50 grams of carbs and 21 grams of protein, right? So if you look at the regular pasta, if you look at the regular pasta, for the 2 ounce, it's 42 grams of carbohydrates and 7 grams of protein. So this one actually has more carbohydrates in it for the one of them is only 3 ounces. So this is 3 ounces. It's a little bit off. It's not exactly apples to apples here, but it is 9 grams of fiber in this one. And this one only has 3 grams of fiber. So, if you're comparing if you're comparing them on the shelf, I would pick this one. However, I think it's also about enjoying the food that you like afterwards. And if you're only having 1/4 cup and sticking to that bariatric plate method, then you're not going to necessarily be overdoing it if you just have 1/4 cup of the white pasta. I encourage you to ask yourself, are you going to overeat it if it's the regular pasta? Because sometimes when it's more of the whole grain pastas, you just don't want as much because it just doesn't hit all the same notes the same way that regular pasta does. This penne pasta is a complete protein one. Let me look at So this one is more apples to apples. This one is for 2 ounces. It's 37 grams of carbs and 11 grams of protein and 3 grams of fiber. So the fiber, honestly, isn't that much different than the regular pasta, but the protein is a little bit more. So it's 4 more grams of protein. So if that's something and you're having a hard time hitting enough protein, then this may be an option for you. But if you're someone that's like a couple years out, there's really not that much difference between these two. It's really more about making sure that you have the right portion in there instead, and trying to stick to that 1/4 of a cup. And then encouraging, making sure to get that 3 to 4 ounces of protein with it, and then also getting that 1/3 of a cup of vegetables, which that could be your sauce. So tomato sauce is actually considered a vegetable. Same thing with salsa. So bulking it up that way. So if you're able to meet your protein needs comfortably, a lot of times these foods can be added back in. But if you're recently had surgery, then a lot of times the pastas and the breads and the rices aren't ready to be reintroduced, because it's going to be displacing the protein in your diet. So it's just something to think about. I see that we have quite a few people watching today, so that's super exciting. I know I came on here last minute. Does anyone have any questions in regards to carbohydrates specifically that you wanted to make sure I answered? I'm probably going to go do this on Instagram as well, if you wanted to watch it there later. You never know, sometimes I end up giving different information on different platforms. But I hope you found this helpful. So really the key message, if you're just tuning in now, is that if you are including carbohydrates in your diet, you want to make sure that you're eating protein first, and you want to make sure that you're able to tolerate it. So, you're not just going to have pasta, and if it's causing you pain, you don't want to eat it. And then sticking to roughly around that 1/4 of a cup, and you're going to be right on target for your calories. So I tend to not count calories because I feel like if you're following the plate method, then a lot of the rest of it's going to fall into place. So hope you found that helpful, and I will talk to you guys all later. Bye.